He wanted to get this look with each other before the kiss. And it was not happening. And it was just the look at each other. And we were like, Michael, but we're trying to do what you were saying, but it's not happening. He said like, no, you guys are not doing what I'm asking you to do. Okay, can you explain it in a different way? Like we go into another room, the three of us, another meeting about the look. I don't know if we did like 20 takes of that look. The day later, I knew because it was not in the call sheet, but I knew we were going to start with that again. And we did.
Penelope, I want to start with something that I think is a bit mysterious. And it's this idea of having lunches with directors before you've signed on to the project. Obviously, there's no audition process, but you met with Michael for lunch. So what did you know? Had you read the script? Did you know that there was a film even in the offing? Was it just a meeting? What did you know before you went into that first meeting?
But we didn't meet for lunch. I don't know. Well, I had met Michael like 15 years before. And I saw him on the set and, it's one of the greatest directors of all time. So I wanted to watch him on set and incredible, kind of scary, but at the same time, so charming and a gentleman and great with actors. I mean, it doesn't matter if you are there for one day and you have one line. The way he treats every single actor is amazing. I always pay attention to that. Like if they treat you differently, then that would really, really bother me because I've been treated in many different ways, like from the beginning, like imagine like when I started to work here, like when I almost didn't speak English, and some people were really nice and some people had no patience for that. So you always remember all those things. I remember the kindest, the nicest people. But anyway, he has this reputation of being very tough, but I think you have to be that tough to be able to accomplish what he does. And he gives so much that he expects the same from every person on every department. So I feel a lot of respect for that. But I had seen him then, like many years ago. And also we had a dinner once, my husband and I, with him and his wife, Summer. And then he called me for this. And it was a Zoom call. And he said, I'm going to send you this script. The next day he sent it. And then that night we were talking, again by Zoom, because I was in Europe. And I said, yes, I love this character. I would love to do this. We agreed on the dates. And he actually controls every single thing. I think he even selected the houses that I was going to see in Modena for where to stay with my family. And I'd never seen something like that because I said, Michael, they told me you're doing this too, but you don't have to. I mean, there are people that can do it. And I personally want to do it myself because I always do it myself. I want to see like the area for the kids and this and that. He's like, yeah, you will choose, but I have to see everything in person first to make sure that you will be happy with the selection. So he would go to the places. I don't know when he sleeps, to get the time to do all these things.
It's amazing that you actually had a great preparation period with him. How much time did you have before you started shooting? I know that I've seen you speak about some of the research that you were able to do in Modena, I assume, before you began. How much time did you have?
So I had a lot of time while I was in Spain. I was preparing, like talking to him on the phone, working with my dialect coach because it was English with an Italian accent, which I had done before, but it's like always like starting from zero. And on that, I worked for many months. And then we went to Modena like a month before shooting, or I think we went twice. But the second time we just stayed there until the end of all my scenes were done before they started to do the races. So I never saw any of that on the set. I saw it when I saw the film. But the research period was very important because nobody knew a lot about Laura Ferrari. and a lot of people knew about Enzo. So he took me to the real apartment, which was very important because I felt in the walls of that apartment, I could feel how depressed she was. I just started to cry when I walked into the room because I feel like you can feel that energy of a space where a woman has been there for many years just crying for the loss of her son and also the loss of that relationship with her husband in a way that was so tricky. And the sadness of living, in the shadows of this man and everyone around him and society, and just not being able to express who she was or to really contribute in a way that she could have to the company. But in that research, seeing the apartment, seeing the real market where she used to show up every day, meeting the people that knew her, even asking things to strangers, I didn't like what I got because they didn't want to give her a place, especially the people that didn't know her well. They would say to me, you're gonna play her? Well, she was very difficult, very scary witch. She was crazy, and in a way there was no compassion. I felt like, where's the compassion for a woman that had lost her son out of an illness, and a woman that had been lied for years from her husband, having another family and everyone knowing about it except for her. No compassion. And I felt like the same thing happened to Michael, and it became like a personal kind of revenge of, we have to give this woman a voice because she's just one more of so many women around the world, across, in history and also today. It's easy to find women, unfortunately, very easy to find women living in a very similar situation. So it became personal for us to have to give her a voice and to do some justice to a woman that was very special and that had done amazing things for the company, that was a good person, that was a survivor of the biggest trauma, the biggest pain that I feel like a woman can go through, which is the loss of a child. And I fell in love with her in a way of like, how can there be no compassion for somebody like that?
So I think I'm wondering, did you meet Piero? Did you meet? Yes.
Yes. Yeah, we met, and he was very nice, very kind, and he was 100% on board because he trusted Michael, and he was 100% there. This movie could not have been done without their blessing. I don't think Michael would have wanted to do it without, especially Piero's blessing, because it touches on so many personal things about his life. But I remember very well like his face when I asked him about Laura. I think the answer lasted for 5 seconds. I think maybe because we were not alone, he didn't really want to get into it. But for me, that was enough to understand that for him, it was also, painful, the kind of relationship there. Where you cannot really blame one or the other. It's a complex relationship because of the nature of it. And I don't blame him for that reaction. He didn't say anything bad, but of course there was a lot of pain and sadness in the answer, more in the eyes than in what he said. And I didn't need to pressure him on getting more information from him because I had that in those eyes, and I had it in all the other people that I talked to, and I had it in the letters that I found. The doctor that Laura and Enzo shared became very close to them, and he didn't give me the letters on the first meeting or second meeting, but then he came back a third time to the set and he said, I have something for you, and he gave me copies of these love letters between Enzo and Laura, and that also helped me understand so much about the details of that the relationship and how complicated it was.
And what do you think that the research of meeting these people, of being in their environment, of seeing the letters, how did those visceral things translate into your performance?
Mm-hmm. Well, for me, the research process is the one that gives me the biggest happiness. Then when you are on the set, yeah, it's a great thing, and every day is something new happens, like you all know, and it's a live process, and you don't know what your partner is going to do, and you have to be open to receive that and change whatever your plan was. But the research is tough because in a way, like sometimes you are like a big part of that, you are alone, so you are your own boss, the boss of the time, of how you distribute that time that you have. And I feel it's like making a soup where you are throwing all of these ingredients little by little. At the beginning, there is no flavor. There is no, I don't know what I'm doing, and feel completely lost. And it always feels like it's the first time all over again. But like suddenly that soup starts boiling and something starts to happen where there is a click. Sometimes there is a click and suddenly you feel, okay, she is somewhere part of my cells and I don't know how to explain it. And maybe someday she will go away and a part of her will always stay with me, but there is the click of understanding on a level that is more than just with your mind. Physically, something happens and you start seeing the world from that point of view. And I love when that click happens because then is when I enjoy the most what acting is. It's not about the result, but about how that freedom that you get when there is the click, how that is so enjoyable and it's like the answer of, okay, this is why, since I was a little girl, this is why I love acting so much. But yeah, unfortunately, we all know the click doesn't happen every time. So, and sometimes the clicks happen, but then nobody else will feel it, or the other way around, or you would do something that you never felt anything, not even when you see the result, and people are telling you, yeah, but I did feel this and that, and it's surprising because you always think that people are gonna feel something similar to what you are feeling. That's the magic of cinema. It's not always like this. I think most of the time it would be like this, but not always.
So those nerves and that fear of first day on set, you have some kind of deep-rooted trust that this is just gonna click and you're going to be fine. I want to talk a little bit about, you used the word magic, and I feel like your magical skill is giving us the truth. Like when you said you just look in Piero's eyes and you have the whole story, I think that's what we see in your performance on screen here. And so I think this first scene is a perfect example because you completely avoid melodrama and give us a scene that is so truthful that on the page could be very melodramatic, I think.
The gun?
Yes. How do you approach that?
Well, I feel like I really try to be a coward, you said? Yeah. Coward? Cobarde?
No, I didn't say coward. I think you're brave.
No, because I tried to convince Michael to erase that scene from the script or let me do a version of the scene with no gun. And he said, why? Why you think that would be better? I said, no, because I think it's like borderline something and I don't know how to do it, and I don't think I will know how to do it on the day. And I think at the end, I convinced him to do, like, not to have the gun up here the whole time, but he was very clear, like, the scene will be there and I will have a gun. And that was the presentation for the character. And for me, that was more scary than the scene at the cemetery, than the fights. Like, it was the most scary scene. And in a way, we were lucky that we shot it like day 2 because it was like really a way to break the ice. But because he's such an amazing director, he knew what he wanted to achieve from that presentation of a character. And he wanted to make people laugh and make people scared of this woman. And I think he achieves those things. And it's on a very thin, very delicate area in the hands of somebody that was not Michael Mann, you know, those scenes can be really dangerous, but he completely made it work. It's all to his credit, because if it would have been for me, I would like, erased.
Which is almost more impressive in a way to know, for us to know that you were hesitant about that scene and you sold it. I mean, we knew immediately that you were depressed. We picked up all the relationships in the household in a silk negligee. I mean, bravo. I want to go a little bit later in the film to this like complicated grief, this explosive scene between you and Adam. And again, it's a little bit script related because there's a line that really struck me when you say, I find myself sharing my whole life with a woman I've never met. I was just like, that would terrify me if I saw that in a script. How do you get over these epic lines, you know, in a script to just get through the scene and perform them?
I didn't worry about like specific lines. I thought it was very well written, and I thought it was about this dance between fiction and reality, and just let your imagination go to what it would feel like. This woman is arguing with somebody that she loves a lot, but the relationship is broken. The son will never return. It's over. A part of her is dead. And it will be dead for the rest of her life. And that's it. So every one of those things is so charged of such a wild pain that is just like allowing yourself to connect with that, to honor others. It's never about yourself, like, oh, I am in this scene, I'm gonna do this. Those scenes, for me, they have something sacred because you are touching and talking about things that unfortunately happen to people. And we all know people that have gone through terrible things like that. So it allows you to really forget about yourself and give all you can. And maybe the truth will come from that if you really go there with of course, the luxury, the safety net that you know that is fiction. But a part of you has to really go there and understand that pain. It cannot be, oh, I hope it doesn't affect me. It cannot be, because it has to affect you. It has to. Otherwise, I feel like you don't deserve being there doing material that touches on that subject, because people go through those things every day in the world. We hear stories like, so even in the cemetery, you go in there and you're talking about something real that happened, and he was buried right there, and this family is letting us shoot there. So your ego has to stay far away from that set for any, and also from manipulation or a strategy in terms of like when the scene is supposed to be emotional, like all of that has to be out the door, I think. I feel like I have my teacher, Juan Carlos Coraza, who is Argentinian, but he lives in Madrid. And he has helped me a lot with this, because I started very young as a teenager, and I still have so much to learn. But it's true that in my teenager years and in my 20s, I felt that this need of forcing things, no? Like, or the more you suffer, the more truth there will be there. Or if you keep the state of the scene in you for 12, 14 hours straight, it will be better. But then he really helped me to understand that it's much more brave to be able to do this dance between fiction and reality as many times as you can in one day, as many times as you can in 1 hour. I didn't know that before. Maybe that system doesn't work for other people. For me, I realized it works better because I force less when I'm allowing this in and out dance to that fiction. And also I feel like that way I can go deeper into that fiction and then come out and take some air and go again. But I feel like there cannot be the extra fear of how is that going to affect you, because it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's really useful. I want to talk to something that's maybe a bit more technical in the dinner scene with you and Adam. You know, all of this, we're given all of this information, and then I was struck kind of by the blocking that in the middle of dinner, you get up and he comes to meet you and you're looking straight into his eyes, and it's fascinating to watch you listen to him. And then of course we learn a whole lot more about your dynamic relationship. So how can you talk to us about the blocking of that scene?
So you are picking moments that were interesting to shoot, because in that scene, Michael was so specific, and that's great. But for the first day, there was something that he wanted to get after all the dialogue. He was happy with that, but then he wanted to get this look with each other before the kiss, and it was not happening, and it was just the look at each other. And we were like, Michael, but we're trying to do what you are saying, but it's not happening. He said, like, no, you guys are not doing what I'm asking you to do. Okay, can you explain it in a different way? Yes, we go into another room, the three of us, another meeting about the look. Like, no, I don't know if we did like 20 takes of that look. The day later, I knew because it was not in the call sheet, but I knew we were going to start with that again. And we did. And it was like the same situation for 2 or 3 hours. And it's amazing to hear Michael describe, the details. And it's so subtle. And then when I saw it, I felt like, actually, that look is to each other, both shots. It's very interesting what it tells. It's not just about what happens later with the sex scene. Is about like the release of that pain that they share. Is more than anything else, and that's like the bonding is that, and also the connection to the work and to the company. But yeah, I remember that was very, very intense to get that. The table was easier. The conversation in the table, the negotiation was easier than that moment.
Yeah. I mean, that moment is everything. It harkens back to their whole history. Absolutely. I want to talk to you about some of the quiet moments. You've spoken about the cemetery a couple of times, and it's you have so many heartbreaking moments that have no dialogue. The cemetery obviously is one of them, and you talked about, we see all of the grief of this woman who's lost her son. Is it just about being in those imagined circumstances and having those thoughts and trusting that we'll see it, or is it something else?
Maybe when I was 20, 25, 30, I would have put myself, my father, my uncle, my grandmother, and then I always would feel weird about that, saying like, in what way am I using them? And I am trying to also manipulate the audience, not only my own everything in my family, and something didn't feel right or didn't feel clean. And I'm not saying that is bad. If that works for somebody, is as long as you are connecting with something that moves something inside you and will move later, will have more chances to move other people. But so I'm not judging that. I'm saying for me, it was not working. I could never take the faces of children and I feel why would I have to do that substitution of in my imagination when that there is a part that has to stay separate from the fiction. Isn't it enough to imagine that woman that represents all the women in the world that lose their children? It happens every day. We all know. Unfortunately, it's if you have read the paper that morning when you went to shoot that, there is unfortunately more than enough material there to connect with the reality of the craziness of this world. So I feel like it would be almost selfish to try to do this substitution game of having to put your own people, your own family, your own. I felt that there was one point arrived in my life where I felt that was not honest anymore. Again, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's better. I'm saying whatever works for you. And for me, that stopped working. Probably even more when I became a mother, or when I lost my father, because I lost it in a very sudden way, and I feel like I can't put no, because it's enough to to give that to this other woman, in this case Laura Ferrari, who actually went through all of these things. Isn't that enough to move things in you? It has to be enough, because it's horrible.
Yeah. Thank you for explaining. I also think that there's a relaxation about you, and I think it's true of many of your characters. When we look at All About My Mother and Bolbert and Don't Move and Parallel Mothers, all of these very complex characters on screen that are just natural for us to watch because you are just so natural. And I kept thinking, Laura Ferrari couldn't be this without those characters. And how do you achieve that relaxation to just be all of the things she is?
Wow. Well, to me, it's a surprise that you feel that I'm relaxed, because I never relaxed, especially when I'm working. Then in my life, I find ways, like after trying for so long, because my mind never stops. That's why I need a lot of sleep, because it's the only time when I'm like, and then my dreams are crazy because I dream in colors, and I dream like if I'm shooting, and I go back to the scene before, maybe 3-4 times, trying to re-edit that scene in the dream. So I don't rest there either, but what can we do? But relax is a big compliment that you tell me this, but I don't feel, I always look for more of that relaxation place where from there you can try things and things are not forced. I try for that, but I don't know that I achieve it. But if that's what gets to you, that's a really good compliment.
I just loved also the relationship with the mother-in-law. You know, when we talk about what's real, it's fascinating that in real life, this is history repeating itself. Like the boys even have the same names. But the relationship with you and this veteran Italian actress, it was just, you know, it's all of the unspoken stuff that makes it real. Can you tell us anything about working with, is it Daniela Piperno? Yeah.
She was great, and she is a small character and you really stayed with her because she's so good. And Michael also took so much time to select every one of the characters, every one of the actors. And like I was telling you before, I loved watching him with actors that maybe were gonna be there for 2 hours on one line or maybe no dialogue, and he would go and talk to them about the past of that character and the situation, the conflict, like really with everybody, and really kind to all of them. So for me, that is something that I love seeing, because sometimes you only hear like, oh, how tough he is, and you see that, and I feel like, okay, but how can he be, how could he be so good without being tough? In many ways, it reminds me of Almodóvar. They have very different personalities, but they are both very, I call them like the artisans of cinema. And there are like maybe like 10 of those in the world. And I feel like it's very important for younger people and newer generations to see and to listen to the way, what it means for them to be on the set, and why they are so kind of obsessive in terms of the attention to detail, and why everything matters, and why they want to make every decision. And I really respect that. I feel it's the only way something gets all these layers, and a movie gets a soul and a heart, is when the director behind really has this work ethic and this incredible attention to detail. And in that way, I feel like they're similar. And because I've worked with Pedro like 7 times, and I am like really trained in that school of respect for details, for me, that was not surprising to be working in the way that Michael works, because it's really, really similar.
And what about working with Adam? What were the differences, do you think, or or similarities in the way you approached the work or came to the work when you were in scenes with him? If it doesn't sound like there was a lot of rehearsal, but maybe there were lots of takes in some cases. So how did you work with Adam, and how did it feel?
So I love Adam as an actor. I think he's incredible. And the problem that we had is that we really connected from the time we spent in the rehearsals, and we realized we have similar sense of humor. So for me, I could not say nothing more than good morning, and no relationship with him during the days where we had those scenes, because quickly he would do things that would really make me laugh, and he would also get into his zone and always very connected, but through like looking at each other like we really hated each other, and we were not planning, oh, we're gonna behave like this or like this, but we both knew that if we relaxed too much in terms of like the connection that we have through humor, it could be a problem. So we really didn't talk too much in those days where we had the fights, and well, we're always fighting in the movie. So we talked more before and after, now when we've been traveling and promoting the film, because I knew it was dangerous. And also some healthy drama, you know, in terms of like finishing a scene, and then there were moments where Michael, Adam, and I, one would leave the room and go through a long hallway, and then after it would be me, and then it would be Adam, and everyone wanted to talk to the other two to see if everything was okay, or if have I done anything wrong, have I upset you with anything. We had this paranoia that I don't know where this came from, but well, actually I think I know where it came from. It's from doing some of those scenes and some of those fights for 14 hours straight. At the end of the day, a part of you don't know where you are, and you start getting very confused about everything. But the three of us were like this, and we could really talk about everything and have a very, very strong connection. And I don't know, it was, those scenes were tough, but I really, really enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. Sorry that I'm giving you such long answers.
No, it's fabulous. It's really insightful. Thank you. So just a couple of more moments I'd just love to ask about, where I think what we see in your performance is not in the dialogue. And I think it's that scene after you come from the bank, you discover there's a house, your women's intuition, you know what it is, you know what you're going to find, and you find the toy Ferrari, and you understand, you know, that there was another son while you lost yours. Can you just talk, and this is, you are the only actor on set. Can you talk to us about that day of filming that scene of coming to the house and finding the toy?
Well, that was another moment that I enjoyed very much, and I'm very grateful to Michael for the way he prepared everything for me, because he set up like 3 different cameras, and I think he talked to everyone that was involved in the scene, all the crew, and didn't let me see anything. I didn't even know where the cameras were, and I didn't know where the car was. So the first take was like a rehearsal that we shot, and I think that's the one that he used, because he said, from this mark, you go like from 2 meters from the right of the tree all the way to that window, and then you will find it from here to there. And it was like 30 meters walking. I felt like what a blessing to be able to do an exercise like that, and for your director to put the time and the kindness to set up the shot that way, so that you can really have that trip and experience that. Like, he did a lot of things like that for us, and those moments you don't forget as an actor, you don't forget for the rest of your life.
It's funny because when you say exercise, I was thinking when you took the phone call, which I think we've all done at drama school, you take the phone call where your worst fear is confirmed. I feel like that should be shown in drama school when everyone is asked to do the exercise where they take a phone call. I felt like
so hard.
Yeah.
I think the kids are very good at that. All the children. Do you think? Mm-hmm. Because they really listen when there's time to listen.
Yeah. They're open. Before we have to let you go, I know you have another Q&A straight after this one. We're always encouraging actors to create their own content. And I know that you've just started your own production company, Moon Lion. Is that how it's pronounced? Yeah. And so can you just tell us, what are your goals for this production company? And for yourself as a producer, what are you hoping to achieve with your production company?
So I feel like I've been very lucky being able to call this my job, my profession. And I would like to contribute to create that for other younger generations of actresses and actors and writers and directors. And this opportunity came to me with my partner, Laura Espeso, who is CEO of Media Pro Studio. So our production company that we have together, Moon Lion, is under the umbrella of Media Pro. And we have total freedom, which is such a blessing because, we don't want to do a lot of things in a short time. But now we are developing 5 things, which I think is more than enough because they all need a lot of care and time. And I am directing a documentary right now. I've been working on that for 1 year and I need 2 more years. And I would love to share with all of you what it is about, but I feel like it's way too early to talk about it. And we are developing a TV show and 2 movies and another movie that we have with Nimoa Group and Leone, which is a book from Elena Ferrante that I love, Days of Abandonment. And we have Isabel Coixet as a director. And just working on the script and still far from the day where we can start shooting, but creating, the moment those projects will take us like 3-4 years.
Well, that really brings us back to the beginning. I hope you'll come back in 3 or 4 years' time though with these projects and share them with us again. Thank you so much for being so generous today.
No, thank you. Thank you all for coming to see the movie.